Thank you, Mary Clark, as always. Great is thy faithfulness. A good way to start this morning. I'm going to have Mary come introduce a friend.
Wow, it's really good to see so many people. This side is going to fall through the floor. That's right. Happy birthday, Karen. I can't think of a better gift. It's so hard to get families all together at the same time. I know that. That is a gift. Wow, enjoy your day. I have a special guest, another piano student. And I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
And this piano student also went to the state music contest in Muncie a few weeks ago, and he got a gold. And his name is Micah Harrison. He's an 8th grader at Driver Middle School. He just started taking formal piano lessons this summer. His grandma, Melanie, is here, Melanie Miller, and she called me in the spring last year and said, Micah really enjoys band, and he loves music, and he plays a little bit by ear. So, a little bit by ear, she said. So, I met him in the summer, and they came to my house, and he came in, and he played some classics, just maybe, first few lines of some things that he had just heard, okay? So that's a really good ear. So I knew that he was going to do really well. So we're working on reading the music, which is helping him in band, and band is helping him with piano and all that. So he's working and doing really well. Micah Harrison played The Swan by Saint-Saëns. So come on up, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. And now the choir will sing.
What will they sing?
Fill the earth with music, which Micah just did. The lyrics are in the chat, and I will put the So now the lyrics are in the chat. And the words are up on the screen. This morning, I would like to introduce, this is going to be a real fun time. Actually, Karen, since it's your birthday, I think it's probably really good for you to get up and introduce your family.
Get Cleo to bring the mic.
Yeah, Cleo will bring the microphone to you. Okay, microphone.
Marcia, when you introduce somebody, raise the hand.
Raise the hand. Okay. All right. Child 1, grandchild 1 are no strangers to anybody. Child 2, Andrea Kirkpatrick. Grandchild 2 by just a very little bit, Eliana Coles, her husband Jay, baby Avery. If she mean mugs you, it's just how it goes. Okay. Grandchild number 3 by just a little bit, Joe Bennett and his wife Bethany from Cincinnati. I guess they're from Muncie. Grandchild number 4, Megan, we call her Crash, Kirkpatrick, from Muncie. Grandchild number 5 is a freshman at IU, is in Bloomington. I forgot, child number 3, Brian, wife Stacy, grandchild number 5, Clara in Bloomington, grandchild number 6, Jenna, right here. I think that's it.
Good. Thank you, Marcia. I appreciate that. And so, welcome to the Peters family. It is just wonderful to have you here. We also have Melanie Miller and Micah Harrison. Thank you again for playing for us, Micah. We have Shirley Ertl and Janet Ross. We have Susan Simons and Dave Longnecker. And behind Dave, we have Kathy and Doug Simmons and their grandchild Jaden. It's good to see you, Jaden. I know. And we do have Dennis here, and besides Dennis, we have Sally Tucker, so we're really happy to see all of you. We have Michelle Lilly, and your friend Becca is gone? No, she's here. She's here. She has a friend, Becca, here, so we're glad to have her here. We have Brian Lilly, we have Sharon Reinert, and Nita Burton. One side. The other side, we have Ellen Craig. It's good to see you, Ellen, and Eileen Critch. It's good to see both of you. We have Sammy Cox and Grant Cox. It's good to see you. We have Josiah Sherman and Michael Sherman and Kristen Sherman and Tom Harold and Betsy Miller and Cleo. Sorry, Betsy. You know I know your name. It's a big day. Betsy Green, and behind Betsy we have Cleo McFarland. So thank you all for being present this morning, and Mary Clark and Ron and I. On Zoom this morning we have Dwight Ferguson from Bella Vista, Arkansas. Welcome, Dwight. It's good to see you. We have, slow hand. We have Cliff Painter from Calaveras County, California. Welcome, Cliff. We have Bill Wagner, who is here with us from Muncie, Indiana. We have Lois Hogue and Dave Miller from Sarasota, Florida. It's good to see you this morning, Lois. We have Teresa Wallace and Kenny Girton here from Winchester. It's good to see you. We have Jeff Clark, who is here with us from Winchester. It's good to see you, Jeff. Yay. We have Rob and Val Pearson here with us this morning. It is good to see you guys this morning, and we hope you're feeling better, Rob. We have Keith Kendall, who is here with us from Friends Fellowship in Richmond. Good morning, Keith. We have Mary Williams, who is here with us. It's good to see you, Mary. Mary is from Fishers, and we're glad to have you here this morning. We have Tony and Marcia Critch from here in Winchester. Welcome, Tony and Marcia. We have Suzanne Weber, who is here with us from Winchester. Dave and Nancy Brumfield are here with us from Florida. We're glad to have them. They're normally Jericho people, but they're here with us during the winter when they are in Florida. We have Deborah Lilly, who is here with us this morning. Thank you, Deborah, for being here. It's good to see you. We have Valerie and Charlie Boyd from Wichita, Kansas. We're glad to have you here. And we have Kent Craig, who is here. Good to see you too, Kent, from Goshen, Indiana. So I think that is everyone. Thank you all for being present. And now Ron is going to lead us in some hymns.
I really was expecting her to say, and now my husband Ron, or my husband Fred will come and lead the singing.
Good luck. Good luck.
But she didn't say that. We sang Great is Thy Faithfulness 1 month ago, almost exactly a month ago. I normally don't repeat these more than 3 times a year, every 4 months or so, and sometimes only twice a year. But this one should be sung every week. This is one of the great hymns. So if you would turn in your hymnal to number 43, Great is Thy Faithfulness, we will sing all 3 verses of that. And boy, this group's got to stand up. This is a stand-up hymn. Let's all stand if you are able, and we'll sing together, Great is Thy Faithfulness.
Great is thy faithfulness,
It is with great reluctance or with great fear that I will encourage you to shake somebody's hand and thank them for being here this morning before you sit back down. For those of you online, we're really glad you're with us too today. Hopefully you got in on a little of the ruckus here. And people say that people not in Indiana are clannish. Norm brought the whole clan today. Actually, Karen did. You can really attract a crowd. You're good. You're good. We're glad you're all here with us today. We're going to sing one more song, and let me just say a couple of things about this. There are 4 verses of this one, but we're going to sing them all because they're all so meaningful. Think about these words when you think about the context of God's faithfulness and our need to be faithful to Him and to the people around us. This is number 372 in the hymnal, Living for Jesus. Living for Jesus, a life that is true, striving to please Him in all that I do. Being faithful to God, in other words. Yielding allegiance, glad-hearted and free. This is the pathway of blessing for me. Living for Jesus who died in my place, bearing on Calvary my sin and disgrace. Such love constrains me to answer His call, follow His leading, and give Him my all. All of this, all 4 verses are about faithfulness, either God's faithfulness to us or our need to be so committed to faithfulness to God. So let's sing together number 372, Living for Jesus. Wow, you guys sing really well. Come back anytime, okay? Thank you very much.
Well, I need to tell you that this reflection on faithfulness is probably one of my favorites. I am really thankful for what Ron wrote. He talked about, in the last part of this, faithfulness through our spiritual life, economic life, marriage and social relationships, and faith, community, and mission. And at the first query that he said, what other areas of life besides those listed in the final section depend on faithfulness if they are to be helpful and good in this world? And because Ron mentioned Walter Mills, I'm just going to have to tell you about Walter Mills and his prayer of, Lord, keep me faithful. Walter came, shortly after Ron and I came to Winchester, Walter felt it was important for our meeting to start a prayer group. And after a year, this prayer group morphed into a prayer supper because Walter loved to eat, and continues to be an anchor of what we do on Wednesday evenings at Winchester Friends. It was in those prayer meetings that I would often hear his verbal prayer for his family, for our church family, for our community, and for our world, and for peace. Without fail, he ended each prayer with the words, Lord, keep me faithful. And to be honest, Walter's faithfulness seemed like a given, and I didn't understand why he would have to pray to be kept faithful. In a world where we live, faithfulness is not a highly esteemed quality. Yet I felt that Walter was not in danger of being unfaithful. He was faithful to his family, and he was faithful to our faith community. And he lived a life of love and faithfulness to God. As I grow closer to the age of Walter when we first met, I've begun to understand a bit better the heart behind his prayer, Lord, keep me faithful. Given the challenges of life today, it is very tempting to give in to despair and hopelessness for the future of the church, for our government, for politics. The world needs followers of Christ who do not despair, who do not give up, and who are willing to be the hands and feet of Jesus to make a difference. And the world needs followers of Jesus who are faithful in ministry, faithful to nurture and love children, and faithful to pray. So those are my 3 additions to what Ron has written. Ministry. Walter was a Quaker who understood both released ministry and the importance of the ministry of every believer. Walter used his retirement to work with us, to visit the members of our community, and to take us to meet new people. When there was a death in our faith community, Walter was the first one at the door of the family with a box of donuts, usually at 8 o'clock in the morning, which some people appreciated, some did not. He was an encourager and a minister and an elder, and he always made it a point to call me his pastor, whether I was recognized by the yearly meeting or not. It was a gift for him to ask that I officiate at his memorial service. In a world where ministry is difficult at best, it is men like Walter who remind me that there is no greater calling than walking with each other and with other ministers in our faith communities. Walter was faithful to children. He loved children. Until the day he died, if there was a child in the room or in the meeting house, the child found a spot on his lap. Sometimes throughout the entire worship service, older children would always seek Walter in the meeting house to play the game of which hand held the dollar coin. To this day, I really think that he had a coin in both hands because no one was ever disappointed. There are never enough children in worship. Sometimes meetings find it easier to make a place somewhere else in the meeting house for children, so that worship services will not be disrupted. I know it is difficult for parents or grandparents to keep energetic children busy and quiet during worship, but I believe that it is important for children to see and to experience adults in worship. and that they feel welcomed by other adults, and for parents to depend on those around them to offer help, sometimes another lap for their children. I often pray for our faith community to be a room full of Walters who will offer an unconditional welcome to every child who enters our building. To be a Walter who sees that of God in every child, and to hold each child with the conviction that they are a gift from God, to care deeply about our witness to each child of God's steadfast love and faithfulness to us. And lastly, Lord, keep us faithful in prayer. I would like to think we live in unprecedented times, or that things have never been worse or more precarious than the future of our nation right now, or the church, or even the world. And I look back on Walter's life and realize that he had a lot of difficulties in his life too. Through it all, Walter prayed. As he approached the last years of his life, this commitment to intercession grew, and it was a gift to listen to him to pray for his family, his faith community, and the broken church and the world. Walter's life and his commitment to prayer were the way that he knew to be God's love and compassion and grace in the last years of his life. My life is richer because of Walter's friendship and love and his presence. My response to his life is to have the same sense of calling to be faithful in a world of unfaithfulness, and to live and love in a difficult and unloving world. Until the day I die, I will pray with Walter, keep me faithful.
There were a number of scriptures that I thought about reading this morning, but Jeremiah's writing in Lamentations is the most beautiful expression of God's faithfulness that I think we can find in the scriptures. So I'm going to read this from the 3rd chapter of Lamentations. This begins with verse 19. I pointed out in what we sent out that Jeremiah was, for the most part, sitting there in Jerusalem. The kingdom of Israel had already separated, and the Judeans, unfortunately, were following in the same pattern that the northern kingdom had followed before, still worshiping idols, still committing sin all over the place, and somehow thinking that God didn't care. And it broke the heart of God's prophet, and that's why God called Jeremiah to go and speak to those Judeans, to warn them that they were on the wrong path, and that if they didn't change their ways, their end was going to be very similar to that of the northern kingdom, one of exile and of the collapse of what they knew as home. And so when Jeremiah wrote these Lamentations, that is what is on his heart and on his mind. And a lot of this is really, it's downer stuff. He's just heartbroken about so many things, and he kind of lets us know what they were and why the people have been so disobedient to God and why it was so disappointing. But in the middle of that, in this 3rd chapter, he says, but, this is what he says. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness, the gall. I remember them well, and my soul is downcast within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I still have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is God's faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to those who seek him. It is good to wait patiently for the salvation of the Lord. I want to hear what's on your hearts today rather than what's on mine. So I'm just going to give you a 3-point thing here of what I hope you will take away from this time of thinking about faithfulness. Our calling, what God calls us to, is first and foremost to be faithful to God. Even before that, he makes sure that we understand that God is faithful to us. And Jeremiah is quick to point that out as well. So I hope that you will leave here with a certainty that God is faithful, that you can trust God, that you can count on God. God will not disappoint if we are in step with him. God is guaranteed, rock solid, to be faithful to us. Sometimes it's faithfulness in truth, and he will let us know what is true, and when we're violating it, it'll kind of sting a little to be corrected. But God is faithful, and he doesn't want us to be lost. He doesn't want us to run off the road. He wants us to be part of his kingdom. So that's the first thing. You can be certain that God is faithful to us. The second thing that I hope you'll take away is that God then calls us to be faithful to him, to reciprocate his faithfulness to us by showing faithfulness to him, to his truth, to his way, to his being. God calls us to be faithful to the things that he has asked his people to do with their lives. God loves us enough to tell us the truth, to lead us in the right way even when we wanted to go a different way. We can count on God. He is faithful to us. Can God count on us? That's the larger question for all of us. Can God count on me to be faithful to his way and his truth? And the third thing that I hope you'll take away is the need for a commitment to be faithful to one another. Faithfulness within the faith community. Faithfulness to people all over the place. Faithfulness to people who don't know the Lord and need to. Are we being faithful to them when we don't tell them the good news of Christ? We must be sure of our commitment not only to be faithful to God and God's way, but to be faithful to the people around us. The only way we can do that is what we've been talking about, this fruit of the Spirit. This is one of 9 aspects of the Spirit's presence in our lives. It's one of the ways that the Holy Spirit shows up in us and shows up visibly to other people in us. Are we committed to be faithful to other people? Can other people count on us to be faithful messengers and servants of God? This quality of faithfulness is another extension, another result of the fruit of the Spirit, which is love. God's agape love. All of the other 8 aspects of the fruit of the Spirit seem to flow out of the love of God. And if we are truly filled with God's love, then we will be certain that God's faithfulness is true to us. We will be dedicated to expressing our faithfulness to God, and we will make a commitment to be faithful to one another. The queries that we posed are these at the bottom of the second page. What other areas of life besides those listed in the final section depend on faithfulness if they're to be helpful and good? Number 2, why should our faithfulness to Christ not be dependent upon our level of personal comfort? That was the thing with Peter, that it got really uncomfortable for him when people were saying, weren't you one of the disciples? Weren't you one of those guys? And he flat out denied it because it was too uncomfortable, because he was afraid he was going to get killed like Jesus was. Why should our faithfulness to Christ not depend on our level of personal comfort? Number 3, what is it about unfaithfulness that causes it so quickly and harmfully to erode trust, which is kind of the bedrock of relationships? And number 4, in what ways has God shown his faithfulness to you during your spiritual journey with Christ? There's a young woman sitting up here in this front row that we know God has been faithful to, because God was faithful to us in answering our prayers for her. So if you got nothing else to do for the next 20 minutes, sit there and give thanks that the Lord was faithful to Megan. But he's been faithful to every one of us, and every one of us should have a story to tell. 20 minutes, we're going to be willing to listen to those. Cleo McFarland is substituting for Rob Pearson with the mobile microphone today, so if you would like to share something, some answer to these queries or anything else that this places on your heart, please get Cleo's attention. Pam, for those online, will be here to try to help folks unmute. We are really blessed to see you all today. Thank you for joining us. God bless you.
This is Cleo. I know that everyone is a little bit reluctant to start, so I will start. There's, in reference to query number 2, this verse in the Bible has been a very important verse to me all of my life since I was a child. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. Whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And that verse has meant more to me probably than most any other verse in the Bible. And I think the reason why that we owe that debt to always be faithful. Jesus went to the cross and died a very painful death through the crucifixion, and he did it for us. He did it for me, he did it for every one of us. And he asked God, he said, ask him to take this cup, because he didn't want to in itself, but he gave himself so that we could have forgiveness. So then he promised us that he would never leave us or forsake us. So we owe that debt of gratitude and faithfulness to Jesus for what he suffered. And he promised us that he would never allow us to endure more than we could handle. So yes, we do owe that debt of gratitude, that faithfulness to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
My response today would be somewhat to both queries 1 and 3. What other areas of life besides those listed in the final section depend on faithfulness? And what is it about unfaithfulness that causes it so quickly and harmfully to erode trust? And one of the things that I didn't see listed, perhaps it was there and I missed it, but it was in the realm of governance. I think faithfulness is really important in governance, especially when you're looking at a form of democratic government like our republic is. When time after time we are promised something and that promise isn't delivered on, it begins to erode our trust in government. And all kinds of ills spill out of that. I think we've seen the consequences of that, and it's tough. It causes people to despair a bit, and anyways, one of the places I think that is really important for us to see is in leadership and governance. They need to be faithful to us as well as us to them. It's like a general gives orders and he expects those under him to follow those orders. But of course, those under him follow those orders in hopes that the general is being faithful to them as well and keeping their best interests and the greater good in mind to be served. Anyways, that's just one that I wanted to add to the list of, and in many ways that would fall, I guess, under social relationships, governance.
Thank you.
I learned a phrase this week. It probably sounds prettier in Spanish, but it translates as, when you're singing, you can't hear your stomach grumble. And I heard this week that the attendance in churches in Cuba is going up. And it's because they're hungry. And if they're going to be miserable, they would rather be miserable with a group of people than be miserable by themselves. When I think of faithfulness in the Quaker Church, and forgive me, I don't know the name of the third person, but there were 3 Quakers who were leaders in the Quaker Church in 1960 during the Revolution, and those 3 people held the Cuba Yearly Meeting together for the 30 years before Friends in North Carolina started, or in North America started reconnecting and visiting the island. There's one of them is still alive today. He is a wonderful elderly man who lives with his wife, retired, not very far from the church that he pastored for probably 40 years. The 3 of them were able to show up regularly, continuously, with energy and habit of conviction. And then that's one piece of faithfulness. We're all pretty good at showing up regularly to the things we want to do. Sometimes it's a television series, sometimes it's Sunday morning services, sometimes it's our pillows at a certain time of day. There's an aspect of faithfulness that is not as common as regularly showing up, and that is when Jesus turns left, do we turn left with him? When Jesus turns right, do we turn right with him? As a faithful follower, our responsibility is to be watching his footsteps for where he turns. Sometimes supporting a political identity like Cuba is difficult to do because of the politics involved. Sometimes faithful following in that situation means doing things we wouldn't have done 2 years ago. Sometimes faithful following means not doing something that we did 2 years ago. Sometimes faithfulness means that we are going to have to do things that everybody else is going to think look stupid. And it's really hard to know when stupid is the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I don't really know if this was what Ron intended when he wrote query number 1, but when I was reading this last night, I immediately thought about what other areas of life besides those listed in the final section depend on faithfulness, if they're to be helpful and good. I immediately thought of the workplace. Now, many of us in this room are no longer in a workplace. Some are, and God bless you. And I thought about how dependent we all are on the people in the workplace, the people that clean, the people that cook, the people that help us with medications or help us with health problems, teach children. I could go on forever. There's so many workplaces. And I just felt moved to pray for everyone who's in the workplace and the drain that is. And God bless Ron and Pam, who are most definitely in the workplace. And I think each one of us are thankful for their faithfulness. And then I thought about the many of us in this room that would be here this morning that are not in an actual workplace, and that the Lord would just be very, very close to us and show us what it is we are to do with our energy, with our faithfulness, with our abilities, because we still have jobs, and God will show us what to do. So I was very, very thankful to think about and spend time being grateful and also requesting that the Lord really lead us, because we all are still in a workplace.
Thank you.
I've been rereading John Woolman's journal, and one thing that where I was reflecting on faithfulness, as I sit with that wonderful book that's influenced my thinking and my life a lot, is just how John Woolman, over and over, consistently, no matter what is happening to him, whether it's sickness, hard traveling, people, everyone in the world disagreeing with what he's saying, he goes back over and over to, what am I, like, there's something for me to learn here. There's something for me to do here. From God. God has something for me to get, and sometimes the getting it is just the going through it in that open, resigned to God's will. Sometimes there's something more for him to understand mentally in his mind. But there's always like just the faithfulness that there's something for me to understand, and I'm going to learn it from God, from the Spirit. And I don't know, I think that journal is just such a testament to like what when you do that consistently, where God will take you in life is can be really surprising. Yeah. And I think people, a lot of us want to, like, we work so hard on our individuality to be unique and to be different. Like, can't get any more unique and different than him, and he did not work on it at all. He was just pushed there by the Spirit, to yeah, and he hated being unique. He didn't like any of that. It just um, made him feel totally awkward, and but he did it. He felt through faithfulness. And they're all testimonies to wear all white because he felt like dyeing fabrics was not consistent with truth. He walked all over the place because he didn't like the way horses were treated. And he felt like that wasn't consistent with truth. All these things that made him stand out. Wouldn't eat out of silver, because he felt like it supported wealth and supported slavery. Anyway, I'm just fresh off finishing that journal, and it makes me think of a very faithful example.
Thank you.
We are just a couple of minutes past the top of the hour, but again, I do not want anyone to be deprived of an opportunity to obey the Lord. So if you are being moved to speak, please do that just in the next minute or so. We don't want to miss out what God may say to us through you. Thank you to all who have spoken and to all who have joined us in this waiting upon the Lord today. I'm really glad that I was here, and I'm really glad you all were here. Thank you for your faithfulness. I'm going to ask if we might close this time by singing another hymn that talks about what is necessary if we are going to be faithful. This is number 359 in the hymnal. Since we're all Hoosiers here, we'll enjoy singing a good Gaither song. Jesus is Lord of all. That is really one of the impacts of being a faithful follower of Christ. Christ becomes Lord of our life and everything in it. And that is the way that the Holy Spirit shows up in us in this fruit of the Spirit. Number 359, Jesus is Lord of all. persuaded that if you make that true of your life, you will be faithful. I am so thankful for the privilege of worshiping with friends who take that seriously. Before we go, we'll quickly look at some announcements and some prayer concerns. So on the announcement side of your sheet, and take note, there is a March calendar behind all of that, so you can get it twice in some ways. This week, on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, the USFW will hold their March meeting, and that will be in person here at the Meeting House at 1:30 p.m. So ladies, if you are interested, get in touch with Pam and she can bring you up to speed, but all women are welcome to the USFW meeting on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the 4th of March, we will have prayer soup supper over at the house at 5:30 p.m. And then at 7 o'clock, the Welcome Class Bible Study will gather by Zoom, and they will be looking at lesson number 8 in the current quarterly, a lesson called Giving Generously. Too bad we don't take an offering every Sunday. We would make that announcement really with emphasis. Giving generously is the lesson in the quarterly for this Wednesday evening. On Thursday, the two choirs will practice, vocal choir at 6:30 p.m. and the chiming choir then at 7:15. On Saturday this week, we will have a memorial service for Joy Norman here in this room at 11 o'clock. All friends are welcome and invited to attend. You can come and be a support to Kathy and Norm, Doug, Karen, and all the rest. So join us if you're able on Saturday morning. And also then Saturday evening when you go to bed, don't forget to move your clocks and your timers and everything else that needs to be moved 1 hour forward for daylight savings time for the rest of this summer. So that's all on Saturday. And next Sunday, the 8th of March, we will be right back here for worship sharing at 10 o'clock. And we hope that you will join us either in person or online. That is at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time next Sunday. Looking just a little farther forward, the book group will meet to discuss the book Buckeye. That will be at 7:30 p.m. on Monday, the 9th of March by Zoom, and you are most welcome to join us. And take note that March's monthly meeting for business will be held on the second Wednesday of March. That is March 11th at 7 o'clock, also by Zoom. There is an offering plate on the table at the entrance to the parlor. It's there to receive contributions for the ministries of our church. We thank you once again for the faithful way that you do that so well. You are so obedient and faithful to the Lord in that, and we give you thanks. Let's see here. I think maybe that's about all we need to take note of. Over on the other side, some prayer concerns. Teresa Wallace is with us this morning. She's sitting there beside Kenny Girton. She gave Pam permission to put this on the sheet here so that you can all be praying for her next Friday, the 6th of March. She is scheduled to undergo a cardiac catheterization on that day. Please pray for that procedure to show the doctors what they need to know, and that Teresa will come through that really well. Doug Baker has a son out in Oregon named Seth, and he asked last Sunday that we be praying for Seth during a surgery that he had on Wednesday this past week. It was quite an extensive surgery, and it's probably going to take a fair bit of recovery time, so we encourage you to continue praying for Seth Baker out in Oregon, and pray for Doug. I think he's just about to leave Florida, and he's going to go up to New York to be with Paige for a while before he gets back here, so remember to pray for Doug as well as he travels and makes his way back home. Becky Edmonds has been with us this morning. She is in Muncie at home. She is receiving physical therapy there several times a week, so please pray for her as she continues to regain strength and goes through that. And please continue praying for Ellen's grandson, Ellen Craig's grandson in Maryland, Paul Craig. He shattered his lower leg in a fall on ice a couple of weeks ago and is recuperating now at home. And also we have left Josh Lay on here, the Pearson's nephew. He is recuperating after pacemaker repair surgery. And we took Rob Pearson off of here, but Rob was recovering after his cardiac catheterization, and then he got a respiratory illness. So please pray for Rob that he'll get strong and soon be leaping small buildings with a single bound once again. We are counting on that. And pray for Val, who is his faithful nurse. On the cancer list, we still continue to have Linda Wagner. She is in North Carolina. She's the daughter-in-law of Bill and Joyce, the wife of Scott. She is in the middle of a really complicated cancer procedure where infection is a particular threat. So please pray that she will get through these several weeks really well. Pray also for Eileen's daughter-in-law, Lana Critch, down in Indianapolis, for Linda Cover down in Houston, Texas, and for Jan McVeigh, our USFW friend, down in Southwest Indiana, and anybody else that you are aware of who is dealing with cancer. Pray for them all and ask God to heal them and to encourage them and to strengthen them and to give them good people around them. We ask that you continue to pray for people when you see the pictures on television of people digging out of deep snow or having other kinds of weather disasters. Just pray when you see that stuff. Pray also for those who are still being harmed by the government shutdown. Hopefully they're going to get that straightened out before too long. But it's causing some havoc in some people's lives. So when you hear those reports, pray for those folks as well. In addition to Doug Baker out traveling around, Cleo, you still have plans? If the doctor will let Cleo, he is going to drive all the way to Arizona this week, if possible. Yeah, so keep Cleo in your prayers, both for his doctor's opinion and for his plans for a trip to Arizona. Ask the Lord to keep him safe on the way, and all the others that you may be aware of who are out taking trips as the weather warms up. And boy, I hope every one of you has prayed for what came on television yesterday morning, or on the radio yesterday morning. The chaos that has been unleashed in Iran is really heartbreaking. You know, because of the political nature of all of this, there are some people that are cheering and some people that are weeping. But the fact still remains that there are people there dying, people made in God's image, people for whom Jesus went to the cross. And it should just break our hearts that human beings can't get along any better than this. So please pray for peace in that situation and in all the other ones that are tearing up this world and harming so many people. Make peace a constant in your prayer life. God longs for the world to be at peace. That's our list today. Very quickly, if you have an urgent thing that should be added, please let me know. Online, you'll need to unmute. Here in the room, got a hand over here. Kendra snuck in after I hadn't looked that far south yet. Welcome, Kendra. You've come to the right place. They're all here.
I know. The coworker that I asked for prayers for a few weeks ago, Tammy Sells, who has been taking care of her husband, who has a pretty advanced metastatic form of cancer. She herself is now really struggling. She has some unknown abscess going on in her neck. They cannot find the cause of it. She is repeatedly missing work, and it's really, really putting a strain on their family even more in a really trying time. So again, Tammy Sells is her name. She's related to a lot of the Mosiers around here. But if you'd keep her in our prayers, she and I would both really appreciate it. I also wanted to say just briefly, I cannot remember the last time, and I don't think I've ever been so happy to not be able to find a parking spot in the lot. So it was really a blessing this morning to have to struggle for a spot.
You'll have to pick that bone with the folks sitting around you.
Yeah.
It is really wonderful to have you all here, and we're glad you came. And we're glad you're here, Kendra. Thank you. Any other urgent prayer concerns that should be noted? Nothing's lighting up on here. No arms are waving. Let's trust that we've got it covered for now. And as always, if you think of something that you really want all of us to be praying about, please send that or phone that in, email or text to Pam, and we'll be sure that it gets into the list that will go out tomorrow. For just a moment, would you please pause with me to help lift all of these things to the Lord, to leave them in His hands. Let's pray together. Lord, for just a moment, we pause in your presence, fully aware that you are already with all of the people for whom we're praying. You are already at work in those lives. You are already doing what you know will be best. We would simply add our agreement with your best intentions in all of those situations. But we would also ask that you would lock these things into our thinking and into our hearts as we leave this place, that we will go praying and that we won't stop, that your Spirit will prompt us frequently to pray for the things we've heard here today. And we really do trust, Lord, that you will bring good out of all of these situations. And so we thank you for that in advance. But we do ask that you would make your presence known to those who are hurting and suffering and afraid and facing all the other challenges that people face on this day. Let them know that they are not alone, that you are with them, and that you will help. We thank you for the privilege of being together today in worship. We thank you for your presence here, tangibly among us. We ask that you would watch over us as we go from this place, that you will make us your ministers out there in the world where people need to know you. Help us to be faithful people for you. We ask that in Jesus' name. Amen. For those of you not from here, we often play Name That Tune. Can anybody name that tune? The choir director always wins. That's just not fair. Oh, Jesus, I have promised. Thank you, Brian. Very good. Thank you, Mary, for your beautiful selections of hymns. God bless you all. Thank you for being with us today. You are at liberty. We're going to see if we can get out of here. The parking lot is full. Thank you so much for being here today. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week.